Mr. Kwagoswari. Yeah, I'm still talking about actually the dishonesty and the inconsistency of the United States of America. And now we are in a Kwagamaya situation where people are being overtaken by intellectual grandstanding, call it political posturing. Okay, people are partly actually detached from genuine convictions. Okay, they are making the grand statements basing on visible statements from the Congress. First of all, Congress in United States of America is like the parliament of Uganda, the legislature. Okay. Now, the Trump administration consider it as actually it is the executive. Okay. At the end of the day, it is the executive actually to execute foreign policies within the United States of America. Okay, so dear Ugandans, okay, on the issue of the Congress, you should first of all understand that Trump is a transactional leader in the executive. Okay, as of now, Trump administration is anchored on a non-interference policy to appease allies he is cohabiting on the African continent. It's we Ugandans who should push on, since the Trump administration, through Secretary of State Marco Rubio, issued a directive in July 2025 instructing U.S. diplomats and State Department offices worldwide to generally refrain from publicly commenting on the fairness, integrity, legitimacy, or overall process of foreign elections. This marked a significant shift from long-standing U.S. diplomatic norms, where such commentary was common to promote democratic values and pressure governments on issues like fraud or irregularities. The policy's core rationale, as outlined in the internal cable and administrational statements, centers on prioritizing national sovereignty and U.S. strategic interest over ideological promotion of democracy abroad. It draws directly from a May 2025 speech by President Trump in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where he criticized the Western interventionists for trying to dictate how other nations should govern themselves, stating that such matters are no longer the business of the United States and emphasizing partnership based solely on aligned strategic goals. A State Department spokesperson echoed this by noting that the directive aligns with an emphasis on national sovereignty. In practice, this means diplomats can only issue public statements on foreign elections if there is a clear and compelling U.S. foreign policy interest at stake. And even then, comments must be limited to neutral acknowledgements like congratulating the winner and highlighting shared interest without opining on the election's quality or the country's democratic standing. All of such messages require senior level approval and typically originate from Rubio or the department's spokesperson. The administration framed this as a way to advance concrete U.S. goals rather than promoting ideology, with guidance for diplomats to ask themselves if the president himself would make the statement. From my analytical point of view, this reflects a broader retreat from U.S. leadership on global democracy and human rights, potentially reducing pressure on authoritarian regime and diminishing America's moral authority. While the policy emphasizes non-interference, exceptions have emerged, such as Trump's imposition of tariffs on Brazil in response to legal actions against former President Jair Bolsonaro over election-related issues, showing the approach can be situational based on alliances or interests. With Ugandans, Trump just went into a deal with Kairing terrorist Museveni to allow deportees from USA to Uganda, counter-terrorism deals, and the settlement of refugees. Okay? For starters, the Rubio cable from July 2025 is an internal State Department directive that only binds the executive branch. Diplomats, embassies, the Secretary of State, and the other officials under the State Department. It tells them not to publicly comment on the fairness or integrity of foreign elections unless there is a super clear U.S. interest. Congress is completely separate from the Trump administration or the executive. It is the legislative branch, not part of the executive. Rubio's order adds zero legal or direct control over senators, representatives, or congressional committees. They can say whatever they want about foreign election, criticize, praise, call them rigged, push for sanctions, hold hearings because they are independent. That's why you have seen senators, both Republican and Democrat, blasting Uganda's 2026 elections as unfair and violent, while the State Department stays mostly quiet and neutral. Congress can pressure the administration, but the administration does not have to listen to them as a must once American interests are observed. Congress is pushing hard, especially the Senate Foreign Relations Committee that requested the Trump administration to impose sanctions, review U.S. security assistance, and hold accountable those responsible for electoral irregularities and human rights violations in Uganda's January 2026 elections. Key example, on January 23, 2026, Chairman Jim Risch urged the administration to reassess the security relationship, starting with a review of whether sanctions are warranted under existing laws, specifically naming Muhoozi Kainerugaba. Ranking member Jean Sahan and Senator Cole Ball called for U.S. to use all tools, including security aid review, to hold Uganda accountable and release detainees like Kizza Besigye. As of today, January 2026, no public response, action, or sanctions from the Trump administration or State Department. They have stayed quiet on the election's fairness, consistent with their non-interference policy. The only statements so far have been neutral security alerts for Americans, not sanctions. So, will they do it or ignore? It's likely they will ignore or at least delay, dilute the request. The administration prioritizes strategic interests like alleged Uganda's military role in East Africa counterterrorism over democracy promotion. This Trump's approach avoids meddling in foreign elections unless directly threatens U.S. goals. No signs yet movement towards sanction. Uganda's junta regime is already pushing back, calling it interference. Can the administration do what Congress requests? Yes. The executive branch has the power to impose targeted sanctions via Global Magnitsky Act or other authorities without Congress's approval. Congress can pass laws conditioning or cutting aid which requires presidential signature or override, holding hearings, issue resolutions, or use oversight to pressure. But they can't force the president to act on sanctions since he controls foreign policy execution. In practice, strong bipartisan pressure sometimes works, like past cases on Myanmar or Russia. But given this administration's stance, don't expect quick compliance unless Uganda's action start hurting U.S. interests directly. Bottom line, Congress is pushing hard, but the ball's in Trump's court, and so far, it's not moving the way we want, we as Ugandans. So, let us peacefully protest against the junta regime, and we put more pressure on the Trump administration.